So, good morning, afternoon, good day, everybody. It is Mystic, and we are back with continuing the lattice work that we have been working on. We've done 3. There's 7 total, and then there's one amorphous, which is things that are not considered crystals, like petrified wood, obsidian, shells, abalone, those things go under amorphous, and we'll get there. So today we're going to be looking at the cubic lattice work. I start all my classes with what I call the 3 C's, which is choosing, cleansing, and charging, because those are the questions that if you have not that's the questions that new people have the most. And so just as a courtesy and as to sort of get the class started, I go over these 3 things. If you've been to any of my classes or watched any of them, I go over it every time. I've gotten quicker now. It used to take me longer, but I've gotten quicker. So the first one is choosing. And I'm a firm believer that you will have crystals choose you. And it can be online, it can be through people that you know, it can be in a rock shop, the big rock shows. But I think that whatever winks at you is probably what you need. Or I was talking to Michelle earlier, and she said she was walking by where her crystals are, and one of the crystals jumped out at her. And I think that that's very common when we need ones, like, and especially if you have a lot of crystals, sometimes you'll just be walking by one and you'll reach over and grab it and you'll be like, oh, this is what I need for today. And so I think that when you're buying crystals, I think that that's one of the ways to go. Obviously, trying to get ethical sources is really important. It's very hard to know for sure. And they are being removed from the earth. So there's always going to be a little bit of that kind of feeling that it being removed. But I think most of us, all of us, try to get as close to ethically sourced as possible. And we do that by knowing the people that we buy from or reputable sources. Even on Amazon has some good reputable sources that you can buy crystals through. I buy a majority of my crystals online. Rock shops and the rock shows are hard because there's so many frequencies around that I tend to get overwhelmed. But I still end up buying stuff when I go to them. And I'm an addict, so with crystals, and I just keep buying them. One of these days I should probably unload some of these, but right now I'm still I'm a dragon in disguise. I'm hoarding crystals. And one of my kids said something about it, and I said, this is your inheritance. Be nice to them. He's also the one that doesn't want me to come to school because of my purple hair. So that's in choosing. And I really do think one of my analogies that I use often is it's like perfume. And so you can have a bottle of perfume and I can smell it and you can smell it. And then you put it on and the other person puts it on and it smells completely different between the two of you. And I believe that's very much the case with crystals, where what you pick up may be very different than what someone else finds that crystal useful for or part of. And crystals are adaptable and programmable, so many times they can do, if all you have is one kind of crystal. it can connect to other things to help you work through and be that support that you need it to be. But it's also nice having lots of different crystals. So that's choosing, cleaning. So I do not wash my crystals. Because there are many crystals that are sensitive to water, and I don't want to have to memorize every crystal that I can't wash and which ones I can. Now, I have rose quartz and amethyst in my shower. And so when I take a bath, they're there because I know that they're good they're fine for water, but a lot of crystals are very sensitive. And if there's any kind of, so here's an example of a crystal where you've got fractures in it, water can get in there and it can cause it to start to erode and to separate. If there's metal, if there's pyrite in it. So I don't use water. I use sound, and I bring my little Tibetan singing bowl. Doo-doo. And so if they're small crystals, I put them inside. And if they're bigger crystals, I put them next to it. And then I hit it. And many times, it will be shorter. It will be more wobbly, the sound when you're cleaning it. And so it usually takes 2, 3, 4, waves to be able to ring out and to be clean and clear. And you can do this to clean your home as well, or clean spaces. Sound is a great source of cleaning. Smoke, incense, you can clean a crystal if you have burning incense. Intention is a huge part of cleaning your crystal. You can put it through smoke, and you can, sort of let the crystal know that you're trying to get it as clean and as clear and as connected to the source of all those crystals on the planet. Because when you have a crystal, it is connected to all the other veins, all the other ones that are similar around the planet. And at least this is what I believe. And so you're asking for that connection back to the earth, back to be as clean and as clear as possible. Selenite or satin spar. Satin spar is the one here. Satin spar is, many times people call it selenite. Technically, it is called satin spar, and selenite is clear, but has the fraction, the lines, kind of like mica, but not quite like mica in it. But I have a big piece, so I put, when I get new ones in the mail, I put them on that log, on my selenite log. And then at night, when I take off my bracelets, I put this through my bracelets so that they're clean for the next day. And I have a big little, or not a big, a little thing of crystal of my bracelets. And each color, I have it color coordinated, and I have a piece of satin spar in each of the bags. So they are able to stay as clean as possible. And obviously, they're also good for cleaning yourself. If you ever feel mucky or sort of overcrowded by stuff, the selenite can be a great thing to clean yourself electrically. Hold it in your hand as well. And what else? Have I missed anything? You can use your voice. I will not demonstrate because that would be not useful, because I don't have a good voice in singing. But you can hold a crystal and you can use your breath and blow it out and use your breath work, kind of like the smoke, but using your breath work to clear off all the connections that are on that crystal. You can use your voice as a sound wave to clear it as well. I've gotten better with the breath, and I've actually used it. When I first started, somebody mentioned that I couldn't hold the breath for very long. And so I have practiced, and now I can kind of blow it out and I can sort of feel it. It took some practice though. And the same when in a way, when you're choosing, especially when you're cleaning and then moving into charging / programming, so much of this is intention. So much of this is where you are at and being grounded. And so you can charge a crystal in the moonlight. Again, it's intention. If you have, I put stones on the windowsill, and certain times of the year, the moon does not shine on my windowsill, but I know that it's shining. So if you live in a situation where the moonlight does not come into your house, you can still put your stones or your crystals on a windowsill and know that the moon, because the moon is not going to be stopped, the moon frequency is not going to be stopped by a wall. It comes through anyway. And so you can charge them that way and program them as well. And you can do it in sunlight. Sunlight, you have to be more cautious. Today, one of the stones we're going to look at is fluorite, and fluorite fades very, very fast in sunlight. So if you say, I wanted to charge this up and get this stone as close to what I need it to be, so I put the intention in it and I put it in the sun, I wouldn't leave it in the sun for more than like 2 hours max, just because they are, especially fluorite, super sensitive to sunlight, and it fades. And so that's just something to know. So the programming with your energy center that's in your palm, that we use for sensitivity work and for being able to connect to things, you can put it in your palm and let it know what you need. Ask it. One of my books has you telling it. I do not tell crystals what to do. I don't think that's nice. I think I always ask them and am grateful. And so I always ask them if it can help me for a specific purpose or for a specific work. So I think I covered, and that's for programming and intention. Intention is the biggest part of it. Intention from when you choose a crystal to cleaning it to hoping it to work in a certain method or certain for what it needs. Be aware that every book says a little bit different. You can have 10, I have like 30 books on crystals, and there's like 4 or 5 books that I use. And so when I'm putting together the notes for class, I choose the commonalities, the one that seems to show up the most between all of my sources. I have a couple books that I should probably just get rid of because the frequency of the author does not match what I have found the stones to be. But what's most important is that you trust yourself and trust that this is what you need. This is what you are, that's what you need to work with at that time. And then, you can look it up, but just remember, they've all got a slightly different take on it, and trust yourself. If you are holding a piece of selenite and you're using it as protective, and you say, I need this to be protective, it will do its best. It'll be protective because that's what you're asking it. And crystals hold, because of their structure, they will hold those intentions, which is why going forward, we are looking at the lattice work. Now, the lattice work is the down to the atoms and ions. It's the structure that goes with crystals. And each lattice work has certain energies that go with that lattice work and that show up in the specific crystals. You'll see the trends of it. And today it was very very prominent and predominant. I was like, wow, that really, I'm sure it's always there, but today it really caught me about how much the information about cubic lattice work and then how it shows up in those crystals was very continuous. I was super impressed. I thought that was so cool. So cubic, I will, and then I will also type in, I'm going to spell this so it's cubic, and then isometric. Yes. Okay. So that is so that for spelling. We're actually all going to work on stones that I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to spell. So that's another bonus. Um, most people know, if you know what I do is I will do the prep work for the lattice work before today, but in the morning is when I choose the crystals that I'm going to work on for the day. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on this. And then when the day comes, I'm like, I'm going to work on something else. And so then I pull together the crystals that I work with for the day. There's a big plane, helicopter outside, so sorry if you can hear that. Hopefully it will move on. It better move on, otherwise it's a problem. So we're looking at isometric. Isometric and cubic, same thing. It is equal sides. So it's basically a square, a cube. And because of that, because there isn't irregular things, it is incredibly strong, and it's used for a lot of different things, all the way down to semiconductors. Because of this cubic thing, not cubic thing, because of the cubist lattice work, because of those different atoms hitting in making that square. I don't have slides, so I use my little box, and it is like this. And I can't do that because that's rectangle. And so it would be the same. So if this is 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, then this would be 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. So it's a cube, which makes sense, which is why it's called cubic. And it is very strong because of that crystalline structure. These crystals can be very strong. I did not do, I was thinking about it, but I forgot to check on the Mohs on the hardness level to see if these crystals tend to be harder. I know 2 of them are. I don't know what the fluorite, what Mohs level. Mohs is the hardness level of a crystal. I don't know what it is on fluorite. But it is because of that structure, they have found it to be very good. They use it for thermal conductivity, electrical behavior because it's very consistent, and mechanical strength. It's also used in fields like solid state physics. Not sure what that is, but that was one of the things it said. And the semiconductor technology, because it is consistent. They stay square. There isn't some changes and shifting and things like that. Yeah, so equal distances. So we're going to look at some in the cubic lattice work. There are a number of very specific frequencies that this kind of structure brings in. It is many times seen as a stable and a grounding type crystal. And that makes sense because it is square. It's that strong, it's like if you're building a house, you want, the square is the strongest. If you have something like I was just thinking of plywood, like if you have a cube piece of wood, is going to be that as a pole is going to be a lot stronger than a rectangle. The cube's going to be stronger. So it makes sense that stability and grounding are part of the frequencies that cubic lattice work crystals hold. It also not only can it be very grounding, but it also can bring in that present moment. Part of being grounded is being able to be in the moment and not be tied up by the past or overwhelmed by the future or that kind of noise that can happen in our heads when we're not grounded, and that it allows a person to sort of get back into themselves. It has a strong manifestation qualities. So these crystals are really good for manifesting. Again, that comes to because of this is how I see it, is because of the structure because of that grounding and that in influence can help with manifestation because it's solid and it's not it allows for things to be consistent and doesn't, a wind isn't going to, if you're trying to manifest something, you want part of that intention is to be consistent, is to be steady with it. And so these stones tend to be very steady and grounding. And so the manifestation and clarity makes a lot of sense. When I was doing the work and sort of really getting into it, I really, really felt that like grounding would be the bold word it's grounding. Everything else seems to comes, is an offshoot of that grounding influence. It is energizing. It is a stone, a family of stones that is known for vitality and for strength, and which makes sense because it's really the structure of it. And it's also balance and harmony, where things are in balance. Again, we go back to that cube, and that makes sense that there's that sort of balance and harmony with it. It's also known for protection and cleansing, which, I think all crystals, every crystal that I look at has a protection component. There's a protective nature to it. And, these stones are known to be protective and for cleansing. I don't see them as something like satin spar where it really absorbs negative energy, but I think it's more about cleansing the noise, so that if you're emotionally feeling dramatic or unsteady, that these kinds of stones can help dispel and release those so then you can get grounded. So I think that's and then that energetic alignment, and there's actually quite a bit of physical attributes that helps physically in the stones that we chose, which I knew, but it's so interesting. I mean, this is why I love teaching this class, is because I relearn new things every time. My reason for teaching this is, and I know that many of the people in my class have a lot of experience with crystals. And so, but I just want to reignite people to have that love, that sort of like, ooh, crystals, because that's what happens to me. There is no better day than when I get a box of crystals. I mean, that can trump the shittiest day if I come home and there's a box. I'm like, oh, yes. Which is, I'm working on not doing that. Still work in progress. So that is about the cubic crystal lattice work. Again, it's also called isometric. So if you see isometric, it is and cubic are the same. It's just different language. I think I'm not sure, but I think it's to do with the different sciences because I don't know, because they're competitive. So sort of like people who are looking at metals will call it cubic, but people who are looking at it from a physics thing will call it isometric. I think that's why there's these two different names, but that is one of the things. So grounding, woo, grounding. Little neon sign. And that probably would be good for me anyway. Grounding, to be grounded. So we are going to start today with pyrite, also known as fool's gold. And I remember as a little kid, I lived up in the mountains here in Colorado. And I remember as like a 5 and 6-year-old trying to find pyrite with my friends. We would walk around the forest and we would go to some of the open spaces, especially by the anthills. Around the anthills, you would find pieces of pyrite. And so my ex, my kid's dad, my baby daddy, said, "Hey, I found this rock I thought you'd like." So he was at a job site up in the mountains, and he got out of his truck, and this is what he found, and it is a piece of pyrite. And I was like, "Oh my God, that's pyrite! That's fool's gold!" And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was something important," because he thinks I'm crazy and doesn't really get the crystal thing. But he found this, so this is all natural Colorado pyrite. And if you look at pyrite, here's a better one. I have a better example. Remember, we called it cubic. If you look at it, you will see cubes, all these little ones. They're not pointy, they are cubic. And so you're really seeing the physical manifestation of that molecular level. You get to see it in these. It's really cool. And when I was looking at stones to choose today, I looked at it. I pulled out I have these little drawers that have lots of my stuff is separated, and I pulled out the pyrite drawer, and it was so bright. I was like, "Oh yeah, baby, we're working with pyrite today," because it just seemed to be so sparkly, and it really. I don't know if I can get the sparkle. But you can see some over here. But it has that super like glittery kind of look. It's so cool. Pyrites, I know in spell work, pyrite is used many times in manifestation bowls and bowls.
I have one that I made for New Year's Eve that I have put pyrite in.
Right. So that's it. That's very common practice. And so, yes. And it is, so then looking at it, it's a masculine, so pyrite has masculine energy. And we'll look at it physically first. And so at a physical level, it is energizing, gives you physical energy, gives you overall well-being. I found corresponding connections between a number of books to do with the physical, what it helps physically, which doesn't usually happen because everybody has their own idea of how it helps physically. But this time I actually found a lot of corresponding, which is it is known to be helpful for the circulatory system, for stamina, and also in the treatment of respiratory conditions. It's also thought to be beneficial for combating fatigue and then giving and promoting a sense of vitality. So energy, but that sort of that core vital energy. Again, you're not going to feel that if you're not grounded, because that's got to come. It's very much a grounding energy. So pyrite, take you back out. I gotta hold it. I gotta hold it while I'm working with it, talking about it. I think crystals like to be talked about, by the way. And so whenever you have an opportunity and they, you can talk about them. Well, I always took the opportunity to talk about them whenever I can. At the emotional level, it comes in with a sense of well-being and empowerment. And it can help with self-worth. It's gonna hit at the solar plexus energy center, which is where your self-esteem and your value, how you see yourself and the best of yourself. And so this is going to promote that, and it's going to empower that. And it can help it's known to have sort of to assist with a positive attitude. And what's interesting is another stone that we're going to look at today also does the same, is one that I use for the same thing. I was like, oh, cool. I haven't used pyrite in that way, but I'm like, I think I'm going to going forward. And so mentally, it can help with mental clarity, focus, and determination. Again, you can't hold those frequencies if you're not grounded. So it provides that underlining grounding factor so that then you can build those, have mental clarity and focus and get rid of the mental noise that distracts us. And some is also, a couple of them mentioned overcoming mental fatigue and promoting a organized mindset. So make lists and put a little piece of pyrite at the top when you're making your lists, because that'll help you get things done because it has that manifestation aspect. At a mental level, we did that. At a spiritual level and that more core, it is seen as grounding spiritual energies. So bringing it in, so as you're getting grounded, those, your intentions in terms of your spirituality or your self-purpose or whatever kind of path that you take, this can be an empowering stone to strengthen those connections, that self-purpose and personal power. It is, and again, it's a prosperity stone. It's seen as a prosperity stone. Part of that is, it looks like gold, but it's a lot cheaper. And I think that I don't have any like raw gold, but I love pyrite. It has such an amazing feel to it. And it's surprisingly heavy for the size that it is. And we'll be also looking at garnet, which is the same thing. One of the other stones is not so much, but the two of those, it's really heavy. So if you hold another stone that's similar, and these two are about the same size, this is twice as heavy. This is obsidian, rainbow obsidian. And so this is twice as heavy. And so when you hold it, you're like, woo, got it. Cool. So yeah, so it has that assistance with manifestation and just feeling better about yourself as you're going through and doing the work that we do in life, that part of life is. So the next one we're going to look at is garnet. Now, it's also called, I'm going to spell it out because I didn't know. It's also, so it's called, garnet. And then it's also called almandine. So I don't know how to say it properly. Because I always just call it garnet. And there's that. But that's another name for it. And garnet is not just red. Many times we think of garnet as just red, like that really, like here's my bigger piece of garnet. And here's a polished piece that looks like almost looks like a little glass thing, but it's not. It's and you can't see through this one, but if you hold it in the sunlight, you can actually see through it. And garnets are really heavy. And then this one was sort of semi it's got it like they did some cutting on it to make it sort of a little bit flashier. And this particular piece is a little bit more of gem quality because not all pieces are gem quality in terms of something that you can have cut and made into a ring or something. Sometimes this piece is what I call gemmy. Garnet is heavy. It is like, again, we're talking this little piece compared to this is at least 2 times as heavy. Garnet is heavy. So they don't, as far as I know, garnet is not something that they make. I mean, there's enough garnet in the world that you don't have to, they don't make it. Excuse me, I'm gonna put my back heater on, so I will sit back. But if you were ever to get a little piece of garnet and it wasn't heavy and they say, oh, this is garnet, then it's probably not garnet. But they don't, it's not one of the ones that I've seen that is faked. Now I have, I'm going to take my bracelet off. So this is green garnet. So it has the same molecular structure. Obviously, because it's green, it's going to have a slightly different placement in the system just because color frequency is part of what stones are connected to. And, when I'm talking about garnet, I'm talking about a bigger picture. I'm not just talking about red garnet. But it is, yeah, so it comes in green, yellow. I've never seen yellow or orange, but I have green and red. I have a little piece of green, but I forgot to get it. And so at a physical level, garnet is, again, energizing and revitalizing, and has a aspect of endurance to it. It is seen to help with the circulatory system, to improve metabolism. Yes, I might start wearing my garnet all the time. And enhance overall physical well-being. It is, for as a coverall, and each color is going to put it more in a different energy center, but it is very much a root energy center stone. And when we're grounded at the root, then there's that ability for everything to stack up on it because it strengthens everything along the way. If we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the triangle that we've all looked at some point, that bottom one is very much the root. It's safety. It's, you know, having enough to eat, having a roof over your head, and then, you know, moving into like childhood. This is, you know, if, for example, you had a lot of trauma in your childhood, it wasn't very secure, garnet would be a great stone to work with because it's going to work at that root level. It's very, very grounding. And then you can start to put into place those aspects that you know are where you are, who you are, and are healthy and helpful in your life's purpose. So kind of got a little distracted there for a second, but at the emotional level, it is considered for emotional healing and balance. It promotes feelings of security, stability, confidence. There a couple of the references talked about releasing like negative thought patterns or self-limiting beliefs. Again, when we think about cubic, it really has those main things that we were taught that I was speaking about in the cubics. This really has and flows into, it's really showing up in these crystals that I'm talking about. At a mental level, garnet is considered again grounding, but also assists with focus, concentration, and mental clarity. It helps people stay grounded and focused on their goals. And then if you think about manifestation, that's part of manifestation, is being focused and being consistent and holding that what you're trying to see in your life, what you are trying to manifest, that is going to it's going to show up. And then it has that other side where it assists in getting rid of or reducing self-limiting beliefs and putting in a positive mindset. And that's at the mental level. At a more spiritual level, while it is very much a stone of the root, it does have a connection to the heart. And it's considered a stone of commitment, of devotion and love. And it is a stone that keeps people grounded in their spiritual purpose. And it is also seen as part of that protective and grounding part is that it's believed to shield against negative energies and psychic attack. So if you are ever feeling under attack at a deeper level, then this can be a stone that can be very protective. Tourmaline and obsidian, and there are many other, many black stones can be very, very protective, but this is very much about specific sort of negative energy that are ebbing towards your foundation. If someone's having a go at your foundation, this is a really good stone to help strengthen that and to be protective. And so again, it's another one of these ones that's grounding and which helps then for manifestation. So I think this was the first time that I could really, really see, even though I've been doing this second time I've gone through the lattice work, God, it just resonated so much how that at that level holds that the energy that comes in and frequency through that, then showing up in the stones. God, it's awesome. Super exciting. So we will move on to the next stone. I'm going to take a drink of water. Okay. So fluorite. Fluorite is it's a pretty popular stone. And it has a number of very cool qualities. I'm going to go get one thing. All right, I'm going to show that in a second. So, because I realized I only had green fluorite, which is not just the only color. It does come in the whole spectrum. It is sometimes you can see fluorite have all of the colors in the one piece like that. It can be where is it? No, that's not it. I have some yellow fluorite, but I brought up my citrine and not my yellow. Here's a freeform green. Oh, hi. And in this one, you can just see that little shade of purple right there, has that little bit of purple. Many times, again, you'll see so here's one that has purple and all the different colors on it. And it goes from purple and then green and then down into this. They do carvings quite a bit, so I'm gonna think that it's also a pretty hardy stone since they do use it in carvings. So I hadn't really thought about it, but and then when it's raw, this is my raw piece, you can see again, like the pyrite, it has those cubic kind of aspects. Whereas you have something like you know, other stones that are not as cubic. They don't have as many cubes showing up. And so that then again makes sense when we talk about that lattice work being cubic. So it just feels like pyrite and garnet are like really strong core stones, but there's something really, to me, there's something really soft about fluorite. It has this very smooth feeling to it. And it is, it can fluoresce, which is just one of those cool facts. I think you have to, so I took mine into the closet and turned on I have like a cheap black light. I need to get the other one that has the different levels of rays so that I can see it, because it needs a different kind of black light than my little cheapy black light. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get one of those. Sodalite is another stone that comes under cubic. And sodalite has fluorescent in it as well. Okay, so fluorite at the physical level is believed to promote overall health and well-being. And it is considered to help alleviate pain, reduce inflammation, and promote your immune system. Again, we're looking very much at a systemic kind of healing stone, which, you know, pyrite and garnet have that sort of systemic kind of with the circulatory system where it's the whole body. It's not just your heart or your liver, or it's like the whole system. And so I think that that's really cool. And I think that that part of that is from the cubic nature of things. It's also known to help with coordination and managing energy in your body. So if your body's kind of, if you're a klutz, this might be a really good stone to have. And so it's really, and if you think about it, it goes back to that grounding. Because if you're grounded and you're more centered in your whole body, you are not going to be jamming your toes on the door jamb every time you walk out of the room, because you're more grounded in your whole body is sort of stacked up. I took dance for many years. And so at ballet, they always do this like you're a puppet and you have to have everything stacked up on it. And I always think of when people talk about the energy centers and having that flow back and forth and up and down and that breathing, is that if you're hunched over, it's going to be harder for that to flow. And so it seems like, especially these grounding stones can really help with that full body and that full, all the energy centers working in conjunction. Fluorite is associated with emotional balance and emotional clarity. So if you are feeling a certain way about something, but you're not exactly sure what, like sometimes we feel things and we don't know where it's coming from, we don't know what it's about, we don't know how we don't know how we're feeling. I think that this is a really good stone to help be able to identify the emotions that you might be going through. It can help you go through, overcome emotional turmoil, relieve stress, and promote that sense of calm and tranquility, grounding. Um, and again, it goes into making decisions, and we're moving into the mental part of it, but that sort of mental clarity, if you're feeling emotionally mixed up, fluorite would be a very good stone, and especially green, because emotions, many times our emotions sit here in our heart. And so the green is going to really help with that, because that's one of the colors that vibrates in the heart energy center. And so I think that it can really give that mental, it can give the emotional stability, which then moves up to a mental clarity. Because we can't have mental clarity if we're emotionally all over the place. It's hard. Well, you can, but it really is straining, and it's very, very hard to have that sort of stack up. At a mental level, fluorite is seen to provide mental clarity and focus and concentration. It's believed to help in organizing thoughts, relieving stress, um, mental agility, and promoting logical and sort of thoughts that sort of thoughts that work together, thoughts that are connected. And I saw this in 3 different places, is that it's good for students and professionals. It helps with memory enhancement and acuity and cognitive ability and information retention. Um, and I normally that's a kind of a detaily kind of thing, but to see that in 3 different places, I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And so that's very much something that it is seen to be a part of. That is not actually something that I had thought about fluorite in my own work with it. I just hadn't sort of seen that, but I can really see it now, having done it. And it shifts a little bit how I think about fluoride. At a spiritual level, um, it is seen very much as a stone of protection and purification. And I see the a grounding aspect in, and I know I keep going back to it. It just like screamed at me today. That purification, if we're not grounded, we can't be clean, we can't be clear. We're picking up everything that's going around us. And so being able to be grounded, being able to hold a piece of fluorite or a piece of garnet and sort of imagine ourselves growing roots through our feet and into the planet, and having that be a part of that grounding, um, can allow for spiritual, uh, the higher things and the more sensitive things to be able to have a place and room to come in, because you're not distracted in a sense by a whole bunch of emotional or um, mental noise. And so it's in that sort of purification at a spiritual level. And it is seen as promoting spiritual growth. And it is also seen as one of the stones that can really help with intuitive clairvoyance, the clairs. It is seen as a stone of spiritual insight and spiritual awakening. And it is, again, providing some spiritual protection, because when you start, especially as you start in working in meditation or moving meditation, whatever, not everybody's able to sit and just meditate. For some people, they need to be moving or doing something else as a part of their meditative process, drawing, coloring. I think that I could see fluorite really helping deepening that process in you as you go and you look for emotional clarity and emotional insight and mental insight. That fluorite is one of those stones that can really assist with that and provide, some spiritual protection. So I kind of trundled along pretty quickly today. But so those are again, back to cubic, lattice work, garnet, what we looked into, pyrite we looked into, and fluorite. I want to give a couple other stones that are part of the cubic. And it's interesting. It's a bunch of metal, copper, diamond, galena, which is a sort of silver looking pyrite, which is toxic. If you have galena, make sure you put it in a bag and make sure you wash your hands after you're using it, because it is toxic. Gold, silver, sodalite, spinel. So those are some of the other stones that go along the cubic. I'm sure there's a lot more, but those were just a few more to think about. And the one stone that I don't see the cubic in so much in its physical structure is sodalite, because I have raw sodalite and it doesn't have these sort of these things. I guess garnet doesn't really either. But pyrite and fluorite have really the obvious cubic aspect to it. So that is class today. I'm going to stop the recording at this time, and then we will have a little chat and see how things, or if everybody has any questions or anything. So I'm going to stop the recording.